He just wanted to save his mother. But what he uncovered shook an entire community. Imagine finding out your own father and the family doctor were secretly poisoning the woman who gave everything to the world. Her voice, her power, her life, stolen, day by day. But now, the silence is broken. The truth is coming out and, once you hear it, you'll never look at love, loyalty, or family the same way again. He stormed into the room like thunder, his voice shaking with anger and his eyes filled with pain. David Mann Jr. had finally reached his breaking point. He could not stay quiet any longer. "This is not illness," he shouted. "This is betrayal, and I know the truth." For years, people watched Tamila slowly fall apart, her health fading right in front of them. Her once strong body grew weaker. Her powerful voice, once the pride of the gospel world, began to fade. Her thoughts became cloudy. She was no longer the woman people admired. Everyone was told she was just stressed or tired, but David Jr. said that was a lie, a cruel and carefully planned lie. According to him, his own father, David Manson, along with their trusted family doctor, Dr. Jackie, had been behind it all. He claimed they were secretly giving Tamila substances she never agreed to take that slowly drained her energy, her mind, and her fire. Their goal, to control her money, her estate, and everything she had worked so hard for. Now David Jr. has come forward with the truth and, this time, he brought the receipts. In his hands are the pieces of a puzzle that expose a horrifying betrayal. Medical records, hidden voice recordings, altered prescriptions, and suspicious bank transactions all tell the same story. His mother, gospel legend, Tamila Mann, was not sick by chance. She was being poisoned. Quietly, over time, by the very people who claimed to love her. David Jr. is not backing down. His voice shakes, his eyes are full of pain, but he speaks with the strength of someone who has watched enough. This was not care. This was not love. This was slow murder for control, for money, for power. He says what many were too afraid to think. This was not just emotional or medical abuse, it was a calculated, ongoing attempt to end her life. The news hit the gospel world like a thunderclap. Fans, pastors, singers, people who grew up on music were left stunned. This woman who had spent decades lifting others through her voice was nearly silenced by greed. Once seen as a picture-perfect marriage, Tamila and David Manson had always appeared close. Their public image was built on faith, love, and unity. But behind closed doors, it was a very different story. Now, that image has crumbled. Authorities moved quickly. After reviewing the evidence, David Jr. presented, including recordings of Tamila expressing confusion and fear, and medical reports showing high levels of unprescribed sedatives in her system. Arrest warrants were issued. Both David Manson and Dr. Jackie were taken into custody without incident. What shocked people the most was how well-planned it all seemed. The pills, the false diagnosis of early dementia, the financial records, showing steady transfers from Tamila's royalty accounts into a hidden fund managed by her husband. It was not just shady, it was cold and deliberate. As the investigation deepens, more voices are speaking up, former assistants, nurses, even distant relatives who now admit they saw small red flags but never knew the full truth. Now, everything is coming to light. And through it all, David Jr. is standing firm. He has become his mother's shield, her advocate, her voice. He has vowed not to stop until every person involved faces justice. "This is not about revenge," he said during a recent interview. "This is about saving my mother. About protecting her name, her music, her legacy." The road ahead will be long court hearings, lawyers, media pressure. But for Tamila, the nightmare is no longer hidden. The silence is broken, and for the first time in years, someone is fighting for her out loud. The truth is out, and the gospel world will never look at her story or her so-called protectors the same way again. David Jr. is standing firm. "I do not care who you are," he said. "You do not get to drug and destroy the woman who gave you everything. Not while I am here." His silence is over. His fight for justice has begun, even if it means turning against his own father. For weeks, David Jr. stayed quiet, watching his mother fade in every way, her body, her mind, her spirit. She was not just sick, she was being erased. Slowly, on purpose, and he could not take it anymore. He burst through the front door, his chest rising with fury. His eyes were red, and his voice was full of rage. "Enough," he yelled. Tamila lay on the couch, barely able to move. Dr. Jackie sat beside her with a fake smile, pretending to care, but David Jr. had already seen through the lies. Then David Manson walked in, calm and cool. But not for long. David Jr. turned to both of them, pointing his finger. I know everything. You have been drugging her, poisoning her, and for what? Money? The room went still. Dr. Jackie's fake smile faded. David Manson's face turned pale. David Jr. threw a thick folder to the floor, papers, reports, emails. Proof of everything they had done spilling across the room like a wave. You gave her drugs she never needed. You made her weak, confused. Just to steal her legacy, her voice, her life. Tamila tried to speak, but her voice was barely there. David Jr. knelt beside her and held her hand, his anger turning into heartbreak. Mom, he whispered, they were making you disappear right in front of me. Then he stood and turned to face them again. This time, David Manson dropped the act. He snapped. She could not take care of herself. He yelled. She was falling apart. Someone had to protect what she built. David Jr. stepped forward, his face close to his father's. You mean protect your control over her money, her fame, and everything she earned? Do not pretend this was love. It was greed, and I will not let you hide behind it anymore. You did not protect her. You drained the life out of her, David Jr. growled, locking eyes with his father. Then he turned to Dr. Jackie, his voice full of fury. And you. You let this happen. No, you caused it. You stood by and fed her lies. You gave her pills like they were candy. Like poison. Dr. Jackie stood up, trying to keep calm. David, you do not understand. Emila needed help. Help, David barked back. You call this help? He stormed over to the coffee table and picked up a small bottle, no label, no prescription. What is this, Jackie? Because the lab says it's a banned sedative. Not even approved for human use. And you were giving it to my mother 3 times a day. Dr. Jackie froze. David Jr. tossed the bottle. It hit the ground and shattered. Glass flew everywhere. Tamila began to cry quiet, shaking tears, but David Jr. was not done. I watched her fade away. Day by day, she forgot who she was. The woman who raised me, who gave her soul to the world with her voice reduced to nothing. A zombie. And I let it happen. I kept praying it was just illness, or maybe age, but no, it was you. You were killing her, slowly, and you knew it. David Sr. tried to step forward. Son, do not call me that, David snapped. You lost the right to that word the moment you turned my mother into your puppet. She was not your property. Not your business. He reached for the tablet and opened voice memos. Listen, he demanded, to me. Voice, weak and slurred, echoed through the speaker. I don't feel right. My head hurts. I didn't ask for this. Jackie said it was vitamins. Another clip played. Why does David want my passwords? I do not understand why he wants the royalties transferred. I just want to sing. David Jr. looked at them both. His eyes were burning with betrayal. She was crying out for help. And you shut her down? Dr. Jackie sank into the chair, finally looking shaken. But David Sr. He scoffed. She's mine, my wife. I built her career. I made her what she is. I deserve. You deserve nothing. David Jr. roared. He stepped toward his father. You think you own her? That her talent, her voice, her soul belonged to you. He pulled out his phone, fingers trembling as he dialed. You want control. Let's see how much. You control behind bars. 911. What's your emergency? My name is David Mann Jr. I need to report an attempted murder. My mother, Tamila Mann, has been drugged by my father, David Mann Sr., and Dr. Jackie Walters. I have proof. I want them arrested now. As the dispatcher asked questions, David Sr. finally panicked. David, don't do this. You'll destroy us. David Jr. gave a bitter laugh. You already destroyed everything. I'm just exposing the truth. In the distance, sirens began to cry. Red and blue lights flashed through the windows, like judgment from above. Tamila reached for David Jr.'s hand. Her fingers were cold, weak. This was the woman who once filled stadiums with her voice, who brought people to tears with her songs. Now, she could barely speak. David Sr. backed away, sweat covering his face. His calm, confident mask had shattered. You really called the police on your own father? He whispered. David Jr. stared him down. No. I called the police on a man who tried to erase my mother. A man who teamed up with a fake doctor to rob her mind, steal her legacy, and blame it all on age and stress. Dr. Jackie stood frozen, her face pale. Her career, her name, everything, was falling apart in seconds. David turned toward her slowly. You thought I would not notice. That I would stay quiet, but I saw it all. The memory slips, the pills with no name, the strange visits, the documents with no signatures. I followed you, Jackie. I saw you and Dad meeting at the estate lawyer's office. Dr. Jackie opened her mouth to speak. Don't you dare lie to me again, David shouted, his voice shaking the walls. Tamila flinched, not because she was scared of her son, but because of the fire in his voice. That fire reminded her of something she thought she had lost: strength, truth, hope. For the first time in months, a light returned to her tired eyes. David Jr. knelt beside her, brushing her hair from her face with care. They cannot hurt you anymore, Mama, he whispered. I swear, I will not let them take anything else from you. Suddenly, a loud knock echoed through the house. Dallas PD, open up. David Jr. stood tall and walked to the door without hesitation. When he opened it, 2 officers entered, a man and a woman. Another patrol car pulled up behind them. Dr. Jackie and David Sr. instinctively stepped back. David Jr. raised his hands. I am the one who called, he said calmly. My name is David Mann Jr. This is my mother, Tamila Mann. I believe she is the victim of attempted murder through drugging, financial fraud, and mental abuse. The male officer raised an eyebrow. That's a heavy accusation, sir. David Jr. handed him the same manila folder. His voice was cold but steady. You will find everything inside: lab tests, voice recordings, money trails, witness testimony. I want them both arrested today. David Sr. snapped. She's my wife. He's lying. He's twisting everything. Look at her, she's confused. She's not in her right mind. The female officer knelt beside Tamila gently. Ma'am, do you know where you are? Tamila blinked slowly. I think so. Do you know who gave you the medications? Her eyes moved to Dr. Jackie, then to David Sr. Her lips trembled. David and Jackie, ... They said it was just vitamins. Said it would help me sleep. That was all the officer needed. Hands behind your back, she said to Dr. Jackie. The doctor jumped up, panicking. You do not understand. She's unstable. This is all being twisted. But the cuffs were already on her wrists. Next came David Sr. I swear, he's doing this for fame. This is about money and clout. David Jr. stepped in. No, I'm doing this to save what is left of my family. As the officers led them outside, neighbors gathered with phones in hand. Videos were already online. #Savatomila was trending, but for David Jr., this was not about attention. It was about truth. About justice. Inside, a medic checked Tamila's vitals while David paced. He knew this was just the beginning. Courtrooms, interviews, and attacks on their character were coming. But none of that mattered. His mother was alive. And now, maybe, she could begin to heal. The door closed behind the officers, and silence fell. David Jr. sat down at the piano, the same one his mother used to sing next to. He began to play the soft notes of her favorite hymn. Something shifted inside Tamila. Her lips moved. A soft, raspy sound came out. It was not strong, but it was there. She tried to sing, and David Jr. broke down, tears pouring. Her voice had not disappeared. It had only been buried under pills, lies, and greed. But now, it was finding its way back. The next morning, soft sunlight filled the room like a quiet prayer. David Jr. had not slept a single second. He sat at the edge of her bed, keeping watch like a guard protecting a queen. The night had been long. Sirens, lawyers, reporters outside. A nurse rushing in to stabilize Tamila's fragile state. But in that darkness, something inside her woke up. When Tamila opened her eyes, they were not foggy, they were focused. Her voice was soft, but her words struck like thunder. Where's David? David Jr. looked at her. Which one? Tamila blinked. Then her jaw tightened. The one who used to love me. The one who stood at the altar and said he'd never let me face fire alone. But when the fire came, he poured gasoline. Her whole body shook as the truth poured out. Years of pain, of secrets, of being silenced under the name of love. And David Jr. listened to it all. She cried not like someone broken, but like someone finally free. He told me I was tired. That I did not need to handle contracts or money anymore. He said he'd take care of it all. But all he did was take everything: my voice, my power, my life. She paused, then spoke again. And Jackie... That devil in white. David Jr. cut in firmly. You are not fading, Mama. Not now. Not on my watch. He stood, Court is in 2 days. And I am bringing everything. Voice notes, witnesses, nurses. Even your assistant has agreed to testify. We are going to fight, and we are going to win. She told me, David Jr. said softly, about the times she saw Dad slipping pills into your smoothies. Tamila's eyes widened in shock. He drugged me. David Jr. nodded, jaw tight with anger. And Jackie signed off every prescription. Under a fake diagnosis, early onset dementia, Tama gasped and clutched her chest like someone had stabbed her. That's why they took my studio keys. Why they kept saying I forgot lyrics. Why they delayed my album. David Jr. leaned in closer. They weren't helping you, Mom. They were trying to erase you and take everything you worked for. Suddenly, Tamila reached for her nightstand, her hands shaking. She pulled out a small, worn notebook and opened it carefully. I wrote it all down, she whispered. Every time something felt wrong. Every time David said I was just being emotional. Every time Jackie told me not to question the pills. Page after page, her handwriting told us story dates, strange moments, blackouts, visitors she could not remember inviting. This was not just a diary. It was proof. It was power. David Jr. held the notebook like it was made of gold. His eyes scanned the pages, his rage rising. You just gave me the final piece. This is it. This is what will end them. Suddenly, the doorbell rang again. Tamila jumped. David Jr. moved quickly and peeked through the curtain. It was not the police. It was the media. CNN, TMZ, local news, reporters, microphones, cameras, the whole world had found their doorstep. David turned to his mother. They want a statement. Tamila sat up straight, wiped her tears, and met his eyes. Then, give them one. He looked surprised. She nodded firmly. I've been quiet long enough. An hour later, Tamila sat in her living room in a velvet chair, a soft turban around her head, and a calm strength in her face. David Jr. sat beside her, holding her hand tightly as the cameras rolled. A reporter leaned in. Miss Mann, the world is watching. Is it true? Did your husband try to poison you? Tamila did not flinch. Yes, my husband and Dr. Jackie tried to silence me. For money. For control. They told me I was losing my mind. That my music career was over. She paused, her voice steady. But they made one mistake. They underestimated my son. David Jr.'s tears fell silently. Tamila gently squeezed his hand. I'm here today because of him. Because he refused to let me die in silence. The reporter spoke again. Softer this time. What do you want to happen next? Tamila looked straight into the camera. Her voice clear. Her message unstoppable. I want justice. For every woman whose voice was stolen behind closed doors. For every mother who was gaslit into silence. I want my name back. My music back. My peace back. And I want my so-called husband to face every single consequence the law can give him. Within minutes, the interview exploded online. #Tamila spread across over 30 countries. Church leaders spoke out. Gospel singers showed support. Celebrities sent messages. Record labels lined up to bring back her unreleased albums. But the most important call came from the courtroom. 2 days later, David Sr. and Dr. Jackie stood side by side. No longer powerful, just scared, empty, broken. David Jr. sat behind the prosecutors with a strong legal team by his side. Tamila entered the courtroom like a queen. The room stood in silence as she walked in. The judge examined every piece of evidence: the notebook, the test results, the audio clips, the stolen money from her royalties. It was not even close. The truth was louder than all the lies. It was a landslide, and justice had finally arrived.